would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hey guys, StarCraft and Ingrid here, as we're going over the final movie of the Millennium era, and what put him on ice, and decided to put him on ice until the 2014 movie, and then Shin Godzilla, and Destroy All Monsters. This is not.
No, it isn't. This feels like they crammed 3 to 5 different movies into the space of one movie.
And added it, gave humans a bunch of action too. And they said basically this is Godzilla through the eyes of Toho, trying to make him an American blockbuster.
And they just way overbloated things on both sides as a result.
I'll say this right off the bat, I give it a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, a 6 if we're being kind of generous, because it's just like, it's sort of a case where each of the individual elements are fine. The aliens are interesting, the monsters are interesting, but there's just way too much that they're not explored too much. It's sort of like you look in your spice cabinet, you take out all of your favorite spices, and you think, oh, since I like all of these individually, they must be really good together, and it just ends up coming out like an intense, tasteless mess.
And the thing is, though, Destroy All Monsters already had, we never acknowledged it in our review of it, but Destroy All Monsters did have the flaw of too many people, some of them just got reverted to cameos. Here, that's even more egregious. Like,
yeah, I sort of feel like this movie needed to have a lot more setup in order to make sense, and that setup just didn't happen in prior movies, so they had to cram it all in here, and it's just like, it was too much. I had difficulty following plot lines, and I was kind of like tired by the end of it, like checking the clock like, wait, there's still an hour left on this thing?
I will say though, this was one of the better alien invaders, as in actual alien invaders, that not Space Godzilla level goodness, but as far as the humanoid alien invaders, oh yeah, I think this puts them above a lot of the Showa ones.
Oh yeah, these aliens are interesting in part because there's a bit of a conflict on how to actually do things. Like, the first guy that they have sort of wanted to do more of an infiltration and peaceful approach, until the humans figured out through actually a pretty clever tactic of trying to introduce the the UN Council's dog to them, and then they figure out and expose on live TV that, oh, it's an alien, but after they kill him, they sort of make room for the much more radical younger one to get in charge, and it's just like, it's just like there was clearly some kind of like a coherent plot there that was well thought out that ends up escalating because, conflict in the chain of command.
Exactly, and then you have, even with the humans, you had Captain Gordon. That was an interesting guy, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
But now, as far as this Godzilla, in my headcanon, it's Junior. Mostly because they showed that little bit from Destroya, but it's clearly not. It's clear this, from what little we can gather, this seems to be the 54 Godzilla. Much like Megagyrus, he never, got killed. But it's more like they skip right to him getting frozen like in Raids Again. So he's been on ice this whole time. until they finally realize we need him. And I gotta say, this Godzilla is as OP'd as the one from GMK, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, like
But
hot
on the good
damn.
guy side. And let's talk the other monsters. Well, Zilla's the standout, let's be honest, right?
Hmm.
You know, the 98 movie,
Oh yeah.
him being that, you know, like, I knew that tuna head wasn't good for anything. The guy that got killed in Australia. That was so awesome, wasn't it? Basically having Godzilla be like, hey, you're nothing, tail whips him and then blasts him to oblivion.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome. What did you say about Minya?
What was Minya even doing in this movie?
I have no idea, but he was still, he was nowhere near as good as Junior. But if we go with the thought that this is Junior, and this is his Junior now, maybe, then, have it be Minya then. But at least this was still felt better than Showa Minya.
Yeah, I can at least give it that much. It's just after you've had the fantasticness that was Junior, this kinda feels like a downgrade.
Yeah, but then so many of the other, you know, characters like,
Wait, there's Angerus.
Someone who just gets the short shaft. Like, Hedorah, one of the most powerful Showa monsters, gets taken out with Evera!
Yeah, it's just like, what the hell? And there was some cases where there were so many monsters that I didn't even notice. Like, a character made a comment about King Caesar, and I'm like, wait, King Caesar's in this movie? I didn't even notice.
I know. Angerus and Rodan do fight. They all lose, but they held out longer than most of the others, so. Gigan, though,
Gigan finally got the respect he deserved, which is definitely one thing I can say in this movie's favor.
Yep, and Mothra, this felt like a king and queen duo that we would see later in King of the Monsters, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The king and the
to that.
Yep, and but of course, typical stuff was Mothra, of course, right?
Yeah, the typical plot line. I've learned when you're watching when Mothra's in a movie, there's like almost guaranteed to bite it, so you just kind of had to mentally brace yourself for whenever that happens.
But you see, this is the first time though the two actually work together.
Yeah, which is definitely a welcome change.
Definitely, but yeah, again, so many of these. But then you had Controllers X show up, and you're like, oh, who's this? Oh wait, who's the one monster that hasn't shown up yet?
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom. It's a different take on Ghidorah, but I will say, when I first saw this, I didn't fully see it coming. I thought like Ghidorah was gonna show up and take that thing out quickly. I didn't expect it to turn into Ghidorah.
Yeah, that was definitely another clever twist, but it's just like there was so much else in this movie that it was hard to keep track of everything.
But of course, you ended with Ghidorah, and I would say I couldn't have had it any other way. It had to be Ghidorah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go through all of his other enemies, it had to be Ghidorah at the end.
Yeah, it's basically like the Godzilla equivalent of a boss rush.
It's his Joker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what this whole movie was. It's a boss rush. And so much, and basically Godzilla's at already, like he starts off at, it's like you're doing the end game boss rush, but you're doing it during that point where you're OP'd at the beginning of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just like, if there had been a little bit more setup, a little bit more continuity like we had in the Heisei era, this maybe could have worked, but as it stands, it's just too much for a standalone movie.
One of the downsides of the Millennium series, unfortunately.
Yeah, where it's just like, it's a lot of one-offs.
Except for the Kira one, but those couldn't tie into this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other downer. No Mega Godzilla in here, but again, I don't think they could have topped Kiru, nor do I think would they've been able to make a good suit without just reusing him.
Yeah, that's entirely fair, and I suppose it keeps the legacy of Mechagodzilla untainted.
Exactly. Again, this isn't bad by any stretch. It's
like we have watched much worse movies, but it could have been a lot better too.
And even though we rank it a 5, if we were, and this is just among the other Millennium, I think we might give it a little bit higher if we do an overarching one, just so we can place it above a bunch of the Showa movies.
Because, yeah, it was definitely better than a lot of the Showa movies. Just barely.
Just barely. It's kind of like when we were talking about with Space Godzilla, how that one was the weakest. That you made the analogy. It's like a person best of their school going to Harvard realize he's not that great, compared to everyone else. This one feels more like the person who was just shy of getting one of those accolades for your grades and everything. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like the AB
just
average.
Just shy of making the honor roll.
Yeah, just shy of making the honor roll. Going up to maybe not Harvard, but one of those other type of prestige that's a bit beneath Harvard. But still having that same feeling.
Yeah.
It's everything from with Space Godzilla taken down a peg. Does that make sense? Would that describe this movie?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So, yeah, we only have one more movie left to go, unless we do any of those anime stuff. We'll save that for another time, but the only thing we have left is Shin Godzilla. But do you want to do a Millennium retrospective, or would you rather save that for the overall? I feel like
that sort of implies that there's at least a bit of continuity, which there really is not.
Yeah, Showa had the loosest of continuity. I think
here it's just a bunch of one-offs and 1-2-off.
Now, I wouldn't mind after we do Shin for us to do an overarching video that it'll just simply be us talking about like, what do we think of Godzilla after this? So until then, we got one more to go with Shin. We'll see you guys then.